Hello!
Have you or a loved one ever seen a Sasquatch? Do you even know what a Sasquatch is? Do you want to know what a Sasquatch is? Hi, I'm Ashley Sue, the host of The Big Breakdown.
Hello!
I don't know about you guys, but lately I've been so overwhelmed with social media. I've watched hours and hours of YouTube essays, each one covering some deep, dark side of TikTok that I would have never even imagined possible. And now my brain is melted. It's gone. Nothing up here. It's just knocking around. And so the reason why I'm here today is to take a break from that. And maybe you guys want a break too? Maybe? We can take a little break together? I don't know what's going on in the world right now. And I don't really want to know. I need some kind of distraction. I want to do research, but not important research. I want to do something better for my brain. I want to focus all of my remaining attention on something big. Like Bigfoot. And the reason why you're here is to listen to me. Not like that. Not in like a listen to me. But just listen. We're just hanging out. That's how I see it. So, if you're relaxing at home, get a snack, get a drink, sit back. We're just chilling. If you're at work listening to me in the background, get that bag. Keep working and keep listening too. And if you're doing something else, I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing? Stop it. What else could you possibly be doing while watching a YouTube video? Oh my gosh, listen. Alright, this is the first time I'm doing a YouTube video like this. So I mentioned earlier that I already listened to a lot of video essays and I wanted to do my own, which means I have to find something to yap about for a long amount of time. Something that keeps my interest as well. Something that is always changing, something we can always build upon. Something that contains a lot of information, a lot of details, a lot of stories. Something that has always interested me is Bigfoot. I know all of us have like a good general idea of what Bigfoot is. We all kind of know him. He's in media, he's in movies, he's in TV, whatever. We all know a Bigfoot reference when we see one. But how much do we really know? I want to make a series where I share all the information that I find, through whatever. I want to set out to find answers to my questions and hopefully answer some of your questions along the way. I don't know what could possibly happen from me posting a video like this, but I see it on every video essay. Before we go into this, everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only. Everything in this video is my opinion, not fact. I'm not stating any facts. None of that. Any theories or opinions I share are just those, opinions and theories. I started getting into Sasquatches a few years ago. A coworker of mine told me to listen to this podcast. I kept listening. I kept getting intrigued. And I kept developing, thinking these thoughts. Sasquatch Chronicles is what I'm talking about. It's an amazing podcast. You should go listen to it. I've spent so many hours listening to it. It's just such an interesting topic, and the amount of eyewitness testimonies you get and how many stories you hear, some details very consistent. Some things are so wild, you're like, who could ever possibly make that up? I never believed in Bigfoot before I started listening to this. But when you hear it over and over and over again, you hear all these stories, you're like, wait a sec. Something's going on. Something's happening. And everybody has a different belief on what Bigfoot is, who Bigfoot is, where he came from, what is this. There are almost 1,000 episodes of Sasquatch Chronicles. And sometimes there are multiple stories in an episode, which means there are more than thousands of encounters probably that we hear about. What about the ones we don't hear about? What about the people who are too afraid to say anything? And that gives us a lot to talk about, doesn't it? In today's episode, I want to give a brief history on what Bigfoot is, the legend of Bigfoot, discuss different theories on who Bigfoot actually is, and share a couple of stories as well. Let's talk about the origins of Bigfoot, the beginning of this legend. Bigfoot is very recognizable, large, hairy human-like creature, anywhere from 6 to 15 feet tall, incredibly strong, stealthy, fast, protector and guardian of the forest, of nature. He speaks for the trees. No, this is not about the Lorax. That'll be the next video. For centuries, there have been many stories of half-man, half-ape-like creatures in many different countries around the world. In Native American culture, there are stories of the Sasquatch. Please, I don't know how to pronounce stuff, so I apologize. Sasquatch, or wild man, who is a humanoid creature who lives in remote forests and mountains, avoiding human contact. Early European settlers who heard these stories used their own folklore to form their own explanations of Sasquatches. The wild man of the woods, or woodwoes, is a legendary figure from medieval England, a hairy wild creature who lives in the wilderness. The wild man of the woods symbolized the wildness of nature and the untamed aspects of humanity. The similarities between the wild man of the woods and the Native American stories of the Sasquatch helped early European settlers come to their own conclusions on what a Sasquatch is. So Bigfoot is not only known in the United States. There's the Yeti, or the abominable snowman, who inhabits the Himalayas. In Australia, the Yowie is the cultural equivalent of Bigfoot in the US. And in Central Asia, there's the Almas. Again, this is like around the world, guys. There's a similar thing around the world, and we're just ignoring it. Okay. In the US, there are reports of large, hairy humanoid creatures, one of the earliest being in 1811. British explorer David Thompson discovered large, human-like footprints near Jasper, Canada. However, many debated the authenticity of this, and it was pretty much deemed like a hoax. It wasn't until 1958 that Bigfoot really blew up. Jerry Crew discovered another set of footprints that he casted. If you don't know what a cast is, it's like, what do they put cement in it, right? And it like hardens, and then you have like a cast, a mold of what the footprint looks like. I'll put a little thing right here, a picture of what it looks like. And his cast made it to the newspaper. And this is where the term Bigfoot became really popular. And this article got the nation buzzing about Bigfoot. Like, he became really popular. Apparently, though, in 2002, Jerry's evidence of Bigfoot was outed as a hoax. It is said that another construction worker, Ray Wallace, was responsible for the hoax. But Bigfoot remained really popular. You know, we see a lot of movies, ads, TV shows, all that with him in it. He's in Smiling Friends. Smiling Friends. Now, a really popular evidence we have of Bigfoot is the Patterson-Gimlin film. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to recognize this. It is like the most controversial piece of evidence ever. I'm pretty sure everyone has seen this at least some point in their lives. I'll put it up on the screen. I'm sure you'll be able to recognize it. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin filmed this in 1967. This was at Bluff Creek, California, and it's a video of Bigfoot walking along the creek. It showcases the iconic turn and look back. The image that we see everywhere now. Like, this image is so popular. It's like the symbol of Bigfoot. This film has been dissected, picked apart, studied frame by frame, analyzed under every color isolation, and there's never been a clear answer on whether or not this film is fake. There are people who believe this is 100% real. There are people who think it's a video of a man in a suit. There are people who think this film was manipulated in some way. No one can come to an agreement. Personally, I would love to believe that this is real. The Sasquatch in the video has breasts, okay? And honestly, girl power slay. I've seen people trying to prove that it's a person walking in a suit, trying to recreate the video, but their films look so fake, it's insane. Looking at the Sasquatch, how the fur moves, how you can see the musculature, you can't really see any signs of fabric like folding the way a suit would. How could this film that looks so realistic if it's a hoax? And would men really want the first Sasquatch on film to be a woman? Let's just let that sink in. Would they? Would they make a costume that has breasts? Would they do that? Why would they do that? Misogyny is calling this real. That's a joke, I just thought of that. I would like to believe it's real. I really don't see how it could have been faked so well. I can only imagine how much trouble she got in after this got out. I know they were pissed. I know she got canceled. When they found out about this video, I know she got isolated. I know. Anyway, this film was huge. And now Bigfoot is well known in pop culture. We got bumper stickers, we got movies, we got TV shows, we got documentaries, we got YouTube videos of people going out in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night with night vision goggles and thermal cameras running around trying to catch him, trying to get proof, chasing this guy, trying to prove that he exists. We got podcasts where hundreds of people go to share their stories. Their own eyes have seen Sasquatches, and they want the world to know what they've seen. I've listened to a lot of these stories, a lot of these episodes, and like I mentioned before, I'm specifically talking about Sasquatch Chronicles. I'm not sure why, but these videos of people chasing Bigfoot around honestly makes me lose hope for Sasquatches. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe the government is doing this. Maybe they're making these YouTube videos as like some kind of facade. Like they're trying to make people look stupid so that when other people watch it, they're like, this is dumb. There's no way. These people are ridiculous. Maybe it's a tactic to get the general public off their backs. Dude, I just uncovered this. I'd rather listen to someone talk about their Bigfoot sighting and 100% lie than watch another one of those YouTube videos. And there's honestly just something about the emotion in the witness's voice, that the realness of everyone's reactions, the consistencies of Sasquatch behavior, there's just something about these stories that gives me hope. Now let's answer the question, what is Bigfoot? Well, that depends. Usually when I listen to these stories, I'm able to separate them into different categories. These categories are the most common theories on what Bigfoot is: evolution, spiritual, religious, and paranormal. I will eventually give these categories their own videos, maybe, like a deep dive on each category. And I know the names aren't great, but for right now, this is just how my brain recognizes them. Okay, I know they're not good names, I know. Now, the first category is evolution. Now, what I mean by that is the theory is that Sasquatches are an animal or a creature that came from the evolution of humans. The theory is that somewhere along the way through human evolution, Sasquatches branched off into their own species. They're very similar to humans, but are creatures that have adapted to living in isolated areas and are able to survive in the forest or other harsh environments. This theory is very, very interesting to me. I definitely want to do more research on it and make a deep dive video on evolution theory itself. But for now, it's just going to be kind of brief explanations of these theories. I'm not trying to box everyone in these because, like I said, everybody has their different interpretation of what Bigfoot is, but you know, when you listen to someone's story and the evidence is there, the behavior's there, based on that story, you can kind of put it into one of these categories, right? Does that make sense? Like I said, I'm not trying to box anyone in, but in my opinion, a lot of hunters fall into this category. I hear a lot of encounters from hunters who, most of the time, interestingly, have a more aggressive Sasquatch encounter or a normal one, and they come out of that believing that a Sasquatch is an animal. Plain and simple. They are an unknown animal, act like an animal, look like an animal, yet very human. And so the theory is that Sasquatches are similar to humans, but their own species. I would like to share a story that I would ultimately put into this category. Now, this story is not from a hunter. I know I said most of them are hunters, but this is one of the stories that got me hooked onto the show itself. The storyteller retells this story with so much emotion in her voice, it's hard to not believe her. Here's the story. Dear Wes, my brother suggested that I email you to tell about an encounter with a group of hairy things, possibly Sasquatches, that I had back in the late 80s when I was working in California. In brief, I was trying to take pictures of sea otters at a beach near Big Sur when a group of 6, 1 male, 2 female, and 3 smaller creatures came down out of a creek, and the male waded into the water and started pulling seaweed out and throwing it back to the females that were chewing at its roots and rubbing it into the fur. This was about 100 meters away from where I was sat on some rocks. The group noticed me when I tried taking some photos, and the male charged at me, whilst the females were screaming. The male stopped about 50 meters away from me and seemed to be having an argument with one of the females as they were gibbering away to each other. The last thing I remember was that it swung its body around to face me again, screamed so loudly that my insides were vibrating, and slammed its fists into the beach. I think I must have fainted, but what I have never understood is that I came round and about an hour or so later, with my jacket pulled over my head and quite badly bruised about 10 meters from my car, and could only assume that I was dumped there. I drove back to the hotel I was staying at, and they called the police, who came and took a statement. I was forcefully told that what I had seen were bears, nothing else. When I argued with the man, he got really agitated with me and asked me whether we didn't have officers like him in positions of authority where I came from. I replied that we did, but that they weren't allowed to tell us what to put into a statement. He then asked whether I understood English, to which I replied that I was English. She has a freaking British accent, bro. What do you mean, does she speak English? Sorry. He just looked at me and told me that I had seen bears, and not to say anything different to anyone else if I didn't want to get kicked out of the country. This is just a summary of her story. During the podcast episode, she goes more into detail about the situation. I put this story into the evolution category mainly because of the behavior she witnessed of the Sasquatches. Nothing about this encounter seems spiritual or paranormal in any way. The behavior seems very natural, animal-like. I remember some extra details she adds to the actual podcast episode that really stuck with me for some reason. Probably just that I was disturbed more than anything else. The first detail is that either the camera was damaged to the point where she couldn't retrieve the photos, or the camera was broken. I cannot remember, but that stuck with me because it shows just how intelligent these creatures are. They recognize that she's taking photos, and they recognize that she should not have those photos. I don't know. They knew there should not be any evidence of their existence. They knew exactly what they needed to do. Another detail that has haunted me is that now, okay, before I get into this detail, if you're uncomfortable with like sexual things, skip past this. It's just kind of sexual. So if you're young, or like if that stuff kind of makes you uncomfortable, move, go away, please leave, trust me. Okay, so another thing she claims is that at some point the aggressive male Sasquatch developed an erection. I don't know why, but that detail makes this encounter 100 times scarier than it already was. Maybe this is paranormal. No, I'm just kidding. It was such an unexpected detail that I have not been able to forget it. She also explains to Wes that at the end, she believes the Sasquatch dragged her back to her car, which is very surprising considering how aggressive the male was acting. I think she kind of, the way she was like explaining it, she was like, well, maybe the females had something to do with it because they were like, it looked like they were having an argument. While the male was being really aggressive, the females were screaming and stuff. Maybe one of the female Sasquatches talked some sense into him. It's also so interesting how she claims they were talking to each other in their own language. She says the language just sounded like gibberish. I think this is so interesting. Another piece of evidence that suggests these creatures are incredibly intelligent, them having their own language and being able to communicate back and forth like that. If you like this summary, her telling her own story is 1,000 times better. I would suggest go listen to Sasquatch Chronicles. It's on episode 515. The title is I Shouldn't Be Alive. She's amazing. It breaks my heart how scared she sounds though, because she gets really emotional while telling this story, you can tell how disturbed she is. Even 30 years later, she still sounds so scared from this experience. Even in the title, I Shouldn't Be Alive, shows just how traumatic this must have been for her. And the way the officer handled this was insane. I want to do a deep dive on encounters like this, where they are told by authorities in very suspicious ways that they didn't see anything, trying to cover everything up. So weird. Surprisingly, this is not the first story I've heard about a Sasquatch getting an erection. During an aggressive display of behavior, nonetheless. Another one is a story I found on Reddit. It's a short one, so I might as well include it. Let's go. If you're uncomfortable, skip ahead. Story. Probably Sasquatch Chronicles 873, titled I Thought I Shot a Man. It's an older guy describing his encounter. Long story short, he had a close encounter with a male Sasquatch that seemed to be enjoying the fact that he was terrified. It was standing there grinning at him and starting to develop an erection. You know how if someone is about to do something scary or exciting, like jump out of an airplane, they'll sort of hype themselves up by huffing and puffing before they jump? The Sasquatch started dramatically doing this, and the guy had the sense that it was hyping itself up to kill him in some kind of frenzied bloodlust. He had a revolver in his hand, but due to how he was standing in relation to the Sasquatch, it hadn't seen the gun. He knew he was about to be killed, so he raised the gun and shot it. He said it looked so human in the face that he never spoke about it for a long time because he thought he'd shot another man. It's creepy because the Sasquatch he encountered seemed to be malicious and was getting excited about probably harming him. So, why are we encountering excited male Sasquatches, guys? I think I deserve an answer. These two stories alone make me feel like I never want to meet a Sasquatch. What do you mean they can have erections? What do you mean? I mean, this is worse than man versus bear. Because from these stories, a Sasquatch is a combination of both, in a way. I guess the chances are low, but if there's even a slight chance of encountering this, no, I can't do it. I cannot deal. Absolutely not. And imagine how traumatized and confused this poor man is. The fact that he thought he killed a man is so sad too. He must have felt so much guilt. I found this summary of the episode on Reddit, so if you're interested, you should go listen to the full episode of Sasquatch Chronicles. I might have to put that one on my list. I hope after finding the podcast and being able to share this story and confess everything and realize that he didn't kill an actual man made him feel better. I really hope so. I can't imagine having to carry a secret like that for such a long time too. I feel awful for him. I'm glad he doesn't have to carry the weight of that around anymore, because obviously there's a huge community of people who have experienced Sasquatches and who believe in them and who believe him. Shit. The fact that one of these Sasquatches has the potential to be so malicious that it would get genuinely excited about killing someone, that's another thing that gets me. Is both of these male Sasquatches getting excited in situations where they are displaying aggressive behavior and ultimately have the upper hand. Or at least they think they do. Not the second one, obviously. But I wonder why that is. Does anyone have an explanation for that? Are they really just that freaky deaky? Or is there some kind of scientific explanation for that? I don't know the science behind that. Do other male animals get excited in situations like that? I don't want to look it up, so I don't need my FBI agent thinking I'm turning freaky deaky. I don't need that in my search history, so if you just know that knowledge, comment down below. I want to know. Not really. Those two stories were put in the evolution category because having an encounter like that, you don't really get a hint of spiritual or paranormal at all. It seems like a very animal-like behavior, right? That's just how I think of it. Okay, the next category I made is a spiritual category. and this category can be very broad, but just so you have a clear idea of what I'm talking about, I'm going to keep it simple for now. I'm mainly talking about Native American culture when I mention this category. There are many different specific beliefs in Native American culture. There's not one set belief for everyone. There are different tribes, different beliefs, different legends, all that. One theory about Bigfoot is that he is a creature who appears to convey an important message. One quote I found that I really like is on this is, "A messenger who appears in evil times as a warning from the Creator that man's disrespect for his sacred instructions has upset the harmony and balance of existence." I'm not saying that this belief is what everyone believes, but it is one that I saw a lot while researching Bigfoot in Native American cultures. I also do want to do a deep dive video on all of these stories because I couldn't stop reading them. They were just really interesting. But for now, I'm going to share just a couple legends about Sasquatches. And I got these stories from the BFRO website. It's really cool. They have like a map that shows different tribes and which legends come from which tribes. So if you think that's interesting, you should go look at it. So I have two versions of this story from the Algonquian tribe. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry. I want to read both versions because I couldn't pick which one I liked more. It's the same story, just told in different ways. Now, I am going to read these in a way that I can process it better in my head. Otherwise, I'm going to be talking very slow. The grammar in these stories are different. I just want to put this out there. It's not word for word. So, if you would like to go read the original ones, I will put a link for the BFRO page below in the description. And I apologize again if I'm mispronouncing this stuff, but the title is The Yaho. Once there was a man out hunting and he got lost, and after a while he began to get hungry. He came to a big hole in the ground and he thought he would venture down into it. He went down there and he found that the old Yaho lived in there and had deer meat hanging up and other foods piled around the walls. The man was afraid at first, but Yaho didn't bother him and he went toward that meat to get him some. The Yaho walked over and looked at the knife and said, "Yaho, Yaho," a time or two. He cut it off a piece of the meat and it started eating it. Well, the man stepped over to the middle of the pit and took out his flint and built him up a fire. And the Yaho watched him and looked at the fire and at the flint and said, "Yaho, Yaho," again. The man put his meat on a stick and broiled him a nice piece and started eating it. The Yaho watched him and acted like it wanted a piece. The man cut it off a piece of the broiled meat and reached it over, and the Yaho commenced to eating it up and smacking its lips and saying, "Yaho, Yaho." Well, the man lived there with it a long time, and they got along all right. After so long, there was a child born to them, and it was half man and half Yaho. And the Yaho took such a liking to the man, it wouldn't let him leave. He wanted to get away and go back home. One day he slipped off and the Yaho followed him and made him go back. Went on that way for a good while, but he picked a good time and slipped away. This time he got to the shore where there was a ship ready to set sail. He got on this ship and he looked and saw the Yaho coming with the youngin'. It screamed and hollered for him to come back, and when it saw he wasn't going to come, it just tore the baby in two and held it out one half to him and said, "Yaho, Yaho." He sailed off and left it standing there. Okay, so this is the second story called The Hairy Woman. One time I was prowling in the wilderness, wandering about, kindly got lost and so weak and hungry I couldn't go. When it began to get cool, I found a big cave and crawled back in there to get warm. Crawled back in and came upon a leaf bed and I dozed off to sleep. I heard an awful racket coming into that cave, and something came in and crawled right over me and laid down like a big old bear. It was a hairy thing, and when it laid down it went chomp, chomp, chawing on something. I thought to myself, I'll see what it is and find out what it is eating. I reached over, and a hairy-like woman was there eating chestnuts, and had about half a bushel there. I got a big handful of them and went to chewing on them too. Well, in a few minutes she handed me over another big handful, and I ate chestnuts until I was kindly full and wasn't hungry anymore. Directly she got up and took off and out of sight. Well, I stayed there till the next morning, and she came in with a young deer, brought it in, and with her big, long fingernails, she ripped its hide and skinned it. and then she sliced the good lean meat and handed me a bite to eat. I kindly slipped it behind me, afraid to eat it raw and afraid not to eat it, being she gave it to me. She'd cut off big pieces of deer meat and eat it raw. Well, I laid back, and the other pieces she gave over as she ate hers. She was going to see that I didn't starve. When she got gone again, I built me up a good little fire and broiled my meat. After being hungry for 2 or 3 days, it was good cooked. Yes, buddy. She came in while I had my fire built, grilling my meat, and she ran right into that fire. She couldn't understand because it kindly burnt her a little. She jumped back and looked at me like she was going to run through me. I said, "Uh-oh, I'm going to get in trouble now." Well, it was cold and bad out, so I just stayed another night with her. She was a woman, but was right hairy all over. After several days, I taught her how to broil meat, and that fire would burn her. She got shy of the fire and got so she liked broiled meat and wouldn't eat it raw anymore. We went on through the winter that way. She would go out and carry deer and bear. So I lived there for about 2 years, and when we had a little kid, one side of it was hairy and the other side was slick. I had a notion that I would leave there and go back home. I began to build myself a boat to go away across the lake in. One time after I had left, I thought I would slip back and see what she was doing. I went out to the edge of the cliff and looked down into the mountain. It looked like 2 or 3 dozen hairy people coming up the hill. They were all pressing her, and she would push them back. They wanted to come on up and come in. I was scared to death, afraid they're going to kill me. She made them go back and wouldn't let them come up and interfere. Well, I thought about leaving one day when my boat was ready. I told her one day I was going to leave. She followed me down to my boat and watched me get ready to go away. She was crying, wanting me to stay. I said, "No, I'm tired of the jungles. I'm going back to civilization again. Going back." When she knew she wasn't going to keep me there, she just grabbed the little young'un and tore it right open with her nails. Throwed me the hairy part, and she kept the slick side. That's the end of that story. I just found this story so interesting. The fact that she tore their child in half was insane. Long distance child custody solution. It's also interesting how the man and the Sasquatch were able to mate and have a child in the first place. Moving on from this category and making a side note that is kind of related, but there are a lot of cryptids that seem similar to Sasquatches, and the belief is that Sasquatches are a human hybrid in the paranormal category. And there are stories about Dogman, Catman, Wolfman, Mothman. Okay, I'm kidding about Mothman, but do you see where I'm going with this? Mating with a moth is crazy work. Okay, well maybe it could be true. I'm not discriminating, but I'm just saying. This story just reminded me of that theory that Sasquatches are able to breed with other species and create these cryptids. There are other really good stories I found on the BFRO website. I'm really tempted to share all of them, but I want to make a deep dive for this category, so I'm going to save them for later, but if you want to go read them, you should go read them. But stay tuned if you're interested. The next category is the religious category. I think this category is the least interesting to me, just because I personally haven't heard a lot of Bigfoot encounters where the story genuinely believes that Bigfoot is like a religious thing. And to be clear, what I'm talking about in this category is mainly one thing I have heard. In Mormon culture, there is a rumor, a little piece of information. The word on the street is that Bigfoot is Cain.
Oh my god.
No, not that Cain. Now, there is no official statement from the church that makes this connection. I looked, so that means this is not like a widely believed thing in Mormon culture, but it's there. It's there. But this theory comes from an encounter. This man, Apostle David W. Patton, claims that while on a mule ride, he came across a very large, hairy man who identified himself as Cain. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Cain is a son of Adam and Eve. He became notorious as the first murderer after killing his brother Abel. He was cursed by God with a mark and to be a vagabond and fugitive in the earth. And the only reason why I knew about the Mormons believing this is because my mom told me. She's Mormon. This category might not even get a deep dive video because there's just not a lot of information on this. But if you do know any more information, feel free to comment below. You know, reach out. I'm very interested in what other religions make of Bigfoot, not just Mormons. This is just one thing that I found. I just assume that most people don't even believe Bigfoot exists, but if there is some community, religious community that does, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Since I haven't heard any stories on Sasquatch Chronicles about this, I'm gonna retell the mule ride encounter with you. As I was riding along the road on my mule, I suddenly noticed a very strange personage walking beside me. His head was about even with my shoulders as I sat in my saddle. He wore no clothing but was covered with hair. His skin was very dark. I asked him where he dwelt, and he replied that he had no home, that he was a wanderer in the earth and traveled to and fro. He said he was a very miserable creature, that he had earnestly sought death during his sojourn upon the earth, but that he could not die, and his mission was to destroy the souls of men. About the time he expressed himself thus, I rebuked him in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the virtue on the holy priesthood, and commanded him to go hence, and he immediately departed out of my sight. First of all, he never said the word Cain. He didn't say I am Cain. Not once in this interaction, okay? So like, if anything, David just got trolled. He just got trolled a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Surprisingly, while I was researching this topic, I found more stories from Mormon culture that they came across a large hairy man who they believe is Cain. For example, here's another story. E. Wesley Smith, son of the prophet Joseph F. Smith, was serving as a mission president in Hawaii when he had his own encounter. According to Matthew Bowman's article published in the Journal of Mormon History, a Mormon Bigfoot, David Patton's Cain, and the concept of evil in LDS folklore. Before the Hawaii temple was dedicated in 1921, E. Wesley experienced the following events. A man came through the door. He was tall enough to have to stoop to enter. His eyes were very protruding and rather wild looking. His fingernails were thick and long. He presented a rather unkempt appearance and wore no clothing at all. There suddenly appeared in Smith's right hand a light which had the size and appearance of a dagger. A voice said, "This is your priesthood." He commanded the person in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to depart. Immediately, when the light appeared, the person stopped, and on being commanded to leave, he backed out the door. I just love how in these stories, they can just exorcise the Sasquatch. I researched if Sasquatches have ever been seen in Hawaii, and the closest thing I could find was a legend of the Menehune? I don't know how to pronounce it, I apologize. They are small people around 2 to 3 feet tall. They live in remote areas away from human civilization and are said to be master builders and craftsmen. So no Sasquatches in Hawaii per se. He must have just taken a ship because I don't think he would have been allowed on a plane. Also, I'm just gonna ignore the sort of light that appears in this man's hands because I really don't want to get into that. I already have a headache. Here's another story. One 1948 tale spoke of an unnamed apostle from the 1920s whose car had broken down while he was in Mexico checking up on a mission there. While walking through the desert to find help, the apostle encountered a very large man about 7 feet tall and very dark and hairy coming towards him. The apostle asked him who he was. This man said he was Cain and tried to overpower the apostle, but the apostle cast him out with the authority of the priesthood. Again with the exorcism, I love that. But hey, in this one he actually says that he's Cain, so that's something. Another, in 1981 BM class, fall semester, a student said that her grandfather told her of this incident when he was fishing in Montana. The grandfather would place this incident in the 1940s or 50s. He said he was in an open valley with mostly open land around him and a hill behind him which ran down to the river. As he was fishing, he sensed something coming up behind him because the hair on the back of his neck started to tingle. He turned and saw a very large black man covered with hair and wearing no clothes coming down from the hill toward him. He immediately realized that there was no place to run or hide and the river was too big to allow him to escape. So he stood there and waited for the creature to approach. It came directly to him and asked, "What time is it?" He replied with the time and was told, "No, not the time. What time year is it?" Upon hearing the answer, he returned up the side of the hill and disappeared. It is said that this story is 100% evidence of Cain because the creature asked questions, which is something Cain would do. I just think someone time traveled. Like, because what? Now, I know I've been sharing a lot of stories in this category, but I just kind of fell into this rabbit hole, and honestly, I don't think I'm gonna be doing a separate video on this. So I might as well just give you guys all the stories, right? The last and my favorite category is the paranormal one. Let's go. Yes, many believe that Bigfoot is a paranormal creature because we have never been able to obtain concrete proof that he exists. We have not been able to get a clear picture. There's no hair left behind, no blood samples, no body, footprint casts are just hoaxes, all of that good stuff. Because many encounters end with Bigfoot mysteriously disappearing into thin air because people claim that they speak to Bigfoot telepathically through mind speak. Because Bigfoot is... I ran out. Many people think Bigfoot is paranormal. That Sasquatches have paranormal abilities. Now, I am so interested in this theory because of Robin Hayes McKay. She claims that she has grown up around Bigfoots her whole life and that she has the ability to speak to them through mind speak. Mind speak is being able to speak with another through your mind, okay? I find every story of Robin's so interesting. She has a lot of answers for all of us, all of our questions. But are they believable? Wait until the next deep dive to find out. Until then, here are a few stories that I found on Reddit. The all too reliable Reddit. That's right. I would like to share these specific stories with you. These stories are from a thread that I read through, asking if anyone has any stories about Sasquatches carrying orbs of light, which appears to be very common for some reason. And again, it's one of those details where it's like, who would make something like that up? And some of these people who share their stories, they bet their lives on this. You know what I mean? Like, they really carry this to their graves, and it just kind of shows you, like, if this is really a hoax, why would they go through all the trouble of this? All of the backlash of people, not believing them, calling them crazy, all of this. Why would they do that? It just makes it more believable. I don't know. Here are the stories. When I was a kid, I was at a friend's house in the mountains of Virginia. I saw a light move really fast down the mountain, like in a straight line and quick. I said something to my friend's parents, and his mom just casually said, "Oh, that's the wild man." She said it watched her while she hung clothes on the line. I feel like some of these kind of intertwine with each other. Like I said, I'm not trying to box everyone in, but there are some similarities between the spiritual and paranormal category. I have experienced this. About 10 years ago, I had an encounter. I didn't see anything, but a heavy bipedal circled our camp for about an hour. I took a trip back to the same area about 6 months later and ended up getting weird vibes, so I didn't camp out. On the way back down the mountain, I pulled off on the side of the road, and in a ravine about a mile away, I saw a red orb floating. Kind of looked like someone carrying a flashlight. Then it became white, then green. A friend saw it too, and we noted how it was extremely unlikely a person could be down there. It was extremely remote mountains of Northern California in the middle of the night. Very trippy experience. Gave us shivers, and we bounced pretty quick. I had no idea this was related to Sasquatch until recently, listening to others' encounters. I remember reading an old account, 70s or 80s, of a Boy Scout troop on an overnight seeing a will-o-wisp, kind of spook-like, seemingly sentient, in the woods, and upon following it, they saw the mass of light creating, almost gestating Bigfoot-like creatures out of its light and dropping them off sporadically about the forest floor. It was from an older book on ufology and close encounters, but I'm afraid the title escapes my mind. I'm sorry. Anyways, it was definitely well written before the whole John Akeel post Mothman prophecies mentality of everything under the sun, including cryptozoology, being directly connected to the ultra-terrestrial phenomenon that was a prevalent thing in the field. This is a secondhand story, years old. A friend I had years ago told me something his pastor told him. This happened in Iowa. His pastor had gone out into the woods to do a little hunting on his own. He was following a game trail when up ahead this huge, hairy, classic Bigfoot stepped onto the trail. They both looked at each other, shocked. And then this guy's pastor told him it just wavered, like a mirage, or that alien in the old Predator movie, and disappeared. I used to think these were flesh and blood creatures, perhaps even prehistoric, like Neanderthals or Denisovans. Now I wonder if they might also be inter or extra dimensional. So see, this is like what my mind goes through. I always switch between these categories. Like, I'm so open-minded to stuff that when you hear one story, you make your conclusion of what you think Bigfoot is, and then you hear other stories and you're like, well, damn, now I don't know. Maybe it is freaking interdimensional. I also wanted to include some comments I found in this thread. I really like how some people explain their own theories and explanations, and looking this kind of subject online is hard because there are no news articles on this. You're not going to see it's hard to research it, okay? I am mainly seeing this kind of information through other people and their own personal experiences. So here are some comments I found very interesting. A fireball? I've seen one once, and it was hella freaky. The elders used to tell me they appear when someone was passing away or was going too soon. That's spooky. Who were the elders? First Nations? Yeah, mostly elders that I've met through my family or medicine men. My uncle had a freaky recording of one howling just outside his house on the res, but has long since lost that phone. There is another ranch in Colorado, I think, close to a base and Native American reservation as well. They did view Bigfoot-like creatures and UFOs coming out of the same portals that opened up. Also the nighttime sightings, where witnesses noticed there were blue skies and daylight on the other side of the portals. It would be cool to send a drone through to see if it's still Earth on the other side of those portals. Lots of orbs and strange lights seen, and again, some things they witnessed seem to have more in common with paranormal or occultic things. Maybe that's why they associate the area with skinwalkers? I used to think these were all flesh and blood creatures, but now I think there's something more paranormal occurring at times. Now I'm wondering something. You've probably heard scientists talk about aliens, if that is what they really are, who could one day show up and their tech would seem like magic to us because it's so advanced. Perhaps Bigfoot are aliens, and some type who are more advanced than us. We think they'd be primitive if they are in the forest, and huge hairy beings the way they are spotted. But what if we're making a mistake, and they are really more advanced? Probably everyone here has read the stories of the military showing up in the woods when there are huge forest fires, and basically picking up an injured Bigfoot-type creature. Some of the stories mentioned upper-level officers actually speaking in some type of language to them, and I remember one story like that where a soldier was told the creatures really just want to be left alone. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. I do remember hearing some stories on Sasquatch Chronicles of people in the military witnessing things and it being covered up. There was one, I do not remember, there was a large monkey-like creature, aggressive one, reported, and a group of men had to go kill it, and then the body was taken back to the military base or something and never seen again, covered up, whatever. That I might have to do a deep dive video on specifically videos from people in the military, because that's also interesting. I think there are quite a few encounters with Bigfoot where orbs are either being carried or somewhere in the atmosphere, in the trees or sky, around the Bigfoot. And it appears, reading the comments here, that there may be some stories unpublished until now with this connection. My opinion is that if we ever plan on getting to the bottom of this topic of Bigfoot, we need to keep an open mind and listening to all versions on the story. We might not agree with all the versions, but in order to actually get all the pieces we need, we have to listen to all the versions so we can find the truth within the mystery. I really, really like this quote, or this comment. I really like the ending of it, where it's like, if we want to figure this out, we all need to be open-minded. And that's something I realized in making this video, is that yes, we all have different beliefs of what Bigfoot is, and I just never hear good things about people who believe in Bigfoot. Like, from people on the outside, it's like, oh, they're cults, or oh, they're insane, or they're so like, it's just never good things being said. I feel like if people are always being judgmental or closing themselves off into these groups, like, it's not really getting anything done. I think we all should be very open-minded about what this is. Like, that's crazy, being someone who believes Bigfoot is from evolution, and then listening to someone say like a paranormal story and being like, that's bullshit, I don't believe you. Like, no one believes you. What do you mean? Like, come on, dude. We should all come together. Okay? And I don't want to hear one hate comment. I don't want to see a hate comment in my comment section, okay? I understand that I was being a little hard on the religious category, okay? I'm not saying it's not true. Two things can be true at once, you know what I mean? If Mormons are like, oh, well, every Bigfoot is Cain, like, that doesn't make sense, because there's only one Cain, and we've got thousands of Sasquatch encounters, and a lot of these encounters, there are multiple Sasquatches. So what do you mean by that? Two things can be true at once. Cain can be real, Sasquatches can be real, but 6, 7, I don't know. They seemingly have the ability to vanish at will. Maybe they actually are very intelligent and are possibly our creator. They may be very far ahead of us in technology. Sometimes when I hear similar stories, like from the guy who owns a ranch, I think they might not even be from this dimension, but just visit now and then. There are also some strange stories about them being seen with UFOs and things like that, but it might all be interdimensional, including the alien thing. It could just be some intelligence that likes to mess with us for some unknown reason. Did you ever read Whitley Strieber's book, Communions? Even after reading accounts like that, it makes me wonder if we're being messed with or treated like some kind of experiment. I remember the ugly little aliens he said abducted him acting strangely at times, like wearing a hat and dancing a little. I can't remember what message he inferred from that, but wondered if it was done to elicit a certain response. Then there's the Skinwalker Ranch story, where some people felt the portals that opened and where things came through, like Bigfoot-looking things came through, were actually some type of alien hybrid in the hairy creatures, and the UFOs were more like occultic familiars that followed them to this dimension to assist in some way. Like they were traveling here to collect information on occasion. That one's also interesting, because what if we are being trolled? What if we're just being trolled? What if we're being played with? What if we're just being made fun of? And like, yeah, I can see that because of all these little communities fighting with each other about what Bigfoot is, and it's like, can we all? I also saw this one Reddit post titled UFOs and Bigfoot. CIA investigates combined UFO and Bigfoot sighting in Presque Isle State Park, Erie, Pennsylvania, as part of Project Blue Book. Let's get into it. In the 1960s, the CIA investigated an alleged simultaneous encounter with Bigfoot and a UFO at Presque Isle State Park in the all-too appropriately named city Erie, Pennsylvania. The ensuing reports were documented as part of the infamous Project Blue Book, during which the cases involving UFOs. Presque Isle is a peninsula arching out over Lake Erie to form Presque Isle Bay, one of the state's most visited summer tourist destinations. On the night of July 31st, 1996, 4 tourists from New York found their car stuck in the sand after spending the day relaxing on Beach 6 of the peninsula. One member of the group, Gerald, was sent to call a tow truck, while the others remained in the car. Around 10 p.m., police on patrol stopped to ask if they were all right. After being informed that help was on the way, the officers said they would check back within the hour. When the police returned around 35 minutes later, the group said it witnessed something weird going on up there. Pointing to a location in the sky above a wooded area, one of the group's members, Douglas, went to investigate along with the two officers. The two women in the group, Betty and Anita, remained in the car while they waited for everyone's return. Douglas and the officers walked roughly 300 yards up the beach before hearing the honking of the car's horn, hurrying back to see what happened. Betty and Anita, clearly shaken, said they witnessed a dull black shape, bigger than a man, big head and shoulders, arm-like appendages, no hands, no face visible, as though it had its back turned, in front of their car before it lumbered into the bushes when Betty blew the horn. A scratching sound on the hood or roof of the car was also reported. In the end, this creature was dismissed by investigators as a raccoon, despite the lady's very distinct description of a bipedal humanoid figure. What about the UFO? The UFO was described as an angular craft emitting red and orange lights before descending down to the beach, where it radiated a beam of white light that tracked something into the woods. But eventually it took off at an incredible speed north, shortly after the women encountered the humanoid figure. In the early hours of the following morning, officers patrolled the area where the craft allegedly landed. The report says they noticed the presence of two unusual triangular marks in the area, coinciding with the craft's landing zone. The officer writing the report said, "I have no reasonable explanation of the UFO," and described the witness as credible. Investigation of this case was eventually abandoned, remaining unsolved to this day. The Project Blue Book report dismisses the group's testimony as possibly a hoax, though no definitive conclusion was made. Now, personally, I'm a person who can be swayed very easily. Every time I listen to an encounter, I can very easily put myself in the position of the storyteller, and I 100% believe every word they say. Okay, obviously that's an exaggeration. I do have thoughts of my own. There are certain stories where I'm like, yeah, right. I guess what I'm trying to say is I stay very open-minded when I'm listening to these encounters. And that's because nobody truly knows what a Sasquatch is. Nobody knows. I like keeping my mind open to all the possibilities. Because at the end of the day, anything's possible. I mean, remember a while back when people were being made fun of for believing in UFOs or alien abductions or, you know, all of that? People thought they were fucking crazy. And look what happened. Government drops the documents, the receipts. UFOs fucking exist. So come on, people. Let's be a little more open-minded. Like those boys in Korea, wink wink.
Only if you're open-minded.
I'm really excited to start this series. I hope you are all entertained by the content I'm making now. Also, seeing how good AI has gotten now, I can only imagine what it is going to do to these communities who do believe that Bigfoot exists. I mean, if I came out with a Bigfoot video today, like, no one would believe me. They would say it's AI or photoshopped or edited. Like, even today, when our technology is this advanced, everyone is going to be skeptical of any new piece of evidence. I've already seen videos of Bigfoot doing stupid ass things. So now when I go researching videos of Bigfoot, half of it, if not most of it, is AI. And it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like, I'm trying to do genuine research, and here's AI making a fool of me. Making me feel like a fool of myself. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's what the government wants. So that from now on, everything you do, they can just say it's fake. It's AI. Damn it. What does this mean for the future of Bigfoot? I'm gonna keep researching. Keep believing. Go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you like this video, if you want to see more, if you want to hear from me more. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. If you have any Bigfoot experiences, please comment down below or reach out to me because I would like to know. And maybe I'll do a video that's specifically sharing your guys' stories. I think that would be fun. Comment down below which category you fall under. Who do you think Bigfoot is? You know? And why? Personal experience? Research? Something else? Why do you think that? What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? I'll see you all in the next video. Bye. And I don't want to hear a single hate comment. I don't want to hear a single hate comment because this video is for entertainment purposes only, like I said in the beginning. And if any of you guys want to argue right now, I'm not doing that. I'm not arguing with you guys, okay? No one freaking knows what Bigfoot even is, so stop arguing. You're just wasting your time. I don't want to see that. I will literally block you and delete all your comments of all time so you'll never be able to come on YouTube video again. Let me know if there's something else you want me to talk about, Bigfoot related or not, because if I'm going to be doing the big breakdown, there could be other topics. And this could just stay the big Bigfoot breakdown. I could have two things can exist at the same time. I can do multiple things. I have multitudes within me. Like, I'm not just a one-sided person. Like, you can't just put me in a box like that. Like, I'm putting you guys in boxes with your stories. You can't do that to me. I really need to end the video. I don't want to talk anymore. Not right now, at least. I'm just done right now.